Stop scrolling, ESPN's Caitlin Clark problem just exploded again. Something is deeply broken in the way sports media talks about Caitlin Clark, and this latest debate made that impossible to ignore. Because what should have been a conversation about basketball, pressure, fame, and the emotional toll of non-stop coverage somehow turned into another storm about race, responsibility, and whether Clark owes the league something beyond points, assists, and wins. And the wildest part? The more people say they want to protect the game, the more they keep pulling the conversation away from the actual game. Before we get into this, stay with me, because this is not just about one comment, one analyst, or one TV segment. By the end of this video, the real question is going to be impossible to avoid. If Caitlin Clark has already helped drive record ratings, record attendance, and massive attention to the WNBA, why does so much of the conversation still sound like she has something left to prove outside the lines? And trust me, the numbers make this even more revealing. If you want more sharp, fact-based breakdowns on sports, media narratives, and the stories everybody's arguing about but almost nobody is slowing down to unpack, hit subscribe right now, because this one deserves a full conversation. What set people off this time? The latest firestorm didn't happen because Caitlin Clark said something outrageous. It happened because she opened up about how draining the media environment around her has become. In reported remarks, Clark said there's a false characterization of who she is at times, and described that coverage as emotionally exhausting because people don't want to talk about basketball as much as they want to turn everything into something bigger, louder, and more personal. Yahoo Sports. That is the starting point. Not a controversy she created. Not a shot she took at someone. Not a personal attack. The starting point was a star athlete saying, essentially, this constant distortion of who I am is tiring. And honestly, whether you love Caitlin Clark, can't stand the hype, or fall somewhere in the middle, that should not be hard to understand. Why fans reacted so strongly? The backlash came from what happened next. A lot of viewers felt that instead of engaging Clark's point directly, the conversation immediately drifted back into the same cycle she was talking about in the first place, less focus on what she actually said, more focus on what other people think she represents. That is why so many fans got frustrated. Because when an athlete says, "I'm tired of being falsely framed," and the response sounds to fans like another attempt to frame her through a larger political or cultural lens, it creates the exact feeling people have been complaining about for months. To those fans, it doesn't feel like analysis. It feels like a script that was already written before Clark ever sat down to speak. The bigger than basketball argument. Now, to be fair, there is a real argument on the other side. Some analysts believe Clark's fame is so massive that it naturally comes with broader responsibilities. They see her not just as a player, but as a cultural force. That means every quote, every silence, every reaction gets interpreted through a wider lens. That's not a crazy point by itself. The problem is that fans increasingly believe the burden only seems to work one way. Clark is expected to understand the bigger picture. Clark is expected to be self-aware about what she represents. Clark is expected to navigate every media storm with perfect grace. But when Clark asks for accuracy, when she wants to be understood as a basketball player and a person instead of a symbol, many of those same voices seem far less interested in granting her that same fairness. And that contradiction is what keeps lighting the fuse. What makes this debate so messy? The Caitlin Clark debate is messy because two things can be true at once. It can be true that race, geography, image, and marketability affect sports fame in America. It can also be true that Caitlin Clark became a phenomenon because she is an electric, historically productive player who changed the way casual audiences engaged with women's basketball. Those two ideas do not have to cancel each other out. But once people act like only one of them matters, the conversation gets ugly fast. And that's exactly why this topic keeps exploding. The comment that keeps coming back. Part of the reason this latest moment hit so hard is because it didn't happen in a vacuum. Monica McNutt previously drew heavy attention after a BBC appearance in which, according to Awful Announcing's report on the interview, she said Clark was a white girl from the middle of America, and argued that this shaped how many fans related to her, even while also acknowledging Clark as a dynamic player and major marketing force. Awful Announcing. That comment became a flashpoint because a lot of fans heard it as reducing Clark's popularity to identity first and performance second. Supporters of McNutt's view would say that was not the full point, that she was talking about relatability, symbolism, and how fandom works in the real world. But critics heard something very different. They heard a generational talent being explained away. And once fans start to believe that every conversation about a player is trying to shrink her accomplishments into a social theory, they stop trusting the conversation. The numbers are why this won't go away. Here is where the debate becomes impossible to dismiss. The WNBA's own official release on its 2024 season said the league drew more than 54 million unique viewers across national networks, posted its most-watched regular season in 24 years, recorded its highest attendance in 22 years at 2,353,735, and saw merchandise sales jump 601% year-over-year across WNBAstore.com and the flagship New York location. The league also reported nearly 2 billion social video views and a 366% increase in League Pass subscriptions. WNBA. That is not normal growth. That is not a tiny bump. That is a full-scale audience surge. And when fans hear those numbers, they don't want to be told they imagined Clark's impact. They don't want to hear her influence described like a side note. They see a player who clearly helped move the sport into a bigger commercial orbit, and they expect the media conversation to reflect that honestly. The debut that sent a message. If you want a snapshot of why the Caitlin Clark effect became undeniable so quickly, go back to opening night. The Associated Press reported that Clark's WNBA debut between the Indiana Fever and Connecticut Sun averaged 2.1 million viewers across ESPN2, ESPN+, and Disney+, with a peak of 2.3 million. That set an ESPN record for a WNBA game, beating the network's previous high of nearly 1.5 million from Diana Taurasi's rookie season in 2004. AP News. Think about that. Before her pro career had even settled in, before the league had time to fully absorb her presence, Clark's debut was already rewriting network history. So when fans get defensive about her importance, it's not just hype talking. It's data. Why "Just Talk Basketball" became such a rallying cry. A lot of fans are not saying broader issues never matter. What they are saying is this: every time the conversation returns to Caitlin Clark, the balance feels off. When she breaks a record, the conversation shifts to backlash. When she brings new viewers, the conversation shifts to resentment. When she says the narrative around her is exhausting, the conversation becomes another narrative about what she is supposed to mean to other people. Eventually fans start asking a simple question: why does this keep happening with this player in particular? And if the media cannot answer that cleanly, viewers will answer it themselves, and usually in the harshest possible way. The "you owe the league" tension. There is another reason people are emotional about this. Many viewers feel like Clark is being asked to pay a kind of social tax for her success. Not just to perform. Not just to handle pressure. But to constantly validate everyone else's perspective about what her rise means. And that is where the frustration turns personal for fans. Because from their point of view, Clark has already paid dues in the most obvious way possible, by producing, competing, drawing audiences, and helping move money, attention, and visibility toward the league. The numbers are there. The buzz is there. The demand is there. So when the tone of the conversation still sounds like, yes, but, that, but, becomes the entire story. Even McNutt has acknowledged Clark's impact. This is part of what makes the debate so dramatic. In a report on Monica McNutt's appearance on The Daily Show, Sports Illustrated noted that McNutt said she was on the show because of Caitlin Clark, while also arguing that the women's game had been building long before Clark arrived and that previous stars also deserved major coverage. Jon Stewart, for his part, pushed back and told McNutt that her own voice and analysis were what got her there. Sports Illustrated. That exchange matters. Because it shows the tension at the center of all of this. Yes, the sport was growing before Caitlin Clark. Yes, other players helped build the road. Yes, a single star never tells the whole story. But also, once Clark arrived, the level of attention changed dramatically. Pretending otherwise insults the audience's intelligence. That's why fans feel like they're being gaslit. This is where the emotional core of the whole issue sits. Fans can accept complexity. What they struggle to accept is contradiction. They can accept that Clark is not the only reason women's basketball is booming. They cannot accept being told her role was minor when the official numbers scream the opposite. They can accept that race and identity shape fandom. They cannot accept it when historic on-court performance gets pushed into the background like a footnote. They can accept criticism of Clark's game. They cannot accept commentary that feels like it is forever moving away from the court and into a moral test she can never fully pass. That's when fans stop hearing analysis and start hearing agenda. The All-Star voting controversy added fuel. And then there's the player vote issue, which only deepened the sense that Clark is viewed differently depending on who's talking. The WNBA's official 2024 All-Star voting process used a weighted system of 50% fan vote, 25% player vote, and 25% media vote. In that cycle, Clark led the fan vote with 700,735 votes. WNBA. More recently, Just Women's Sports reported that Clark finished 11th among guards in the player vote, despite ranking highly with fans and media in the broader All-Star equation. Just Women's Sports. Now, whether you think that ranking reflects locker room politics, rookie resentment, peer evaluation, or something more ordinary, the optics were brutal. Because it fed directly into what Clark supporters already believe, that she is celebrated by the audience, watched by millions, but still treated with unusual skepticism inside the ecosystem surrounding the league. That perception may not tell the whole story. But it is absolutely shaping the story. The media trap around Caitlin Clark. Here's the larger issue nobody in sports media seems eager to admit. Caitlin Clark has become content. Not just a player. Not just a rookie star. Not just a franchise-changing guard. Content. A shortcut to outrage. A shortcut to engagement. A shortcut to social clips, panel arguments, and quote graphics. And once that happens, every discussion gets warped. A straightforward basketball point becomes a culture war grenade. A personal reflection becomes a referendum. A hard foul becomes a week-long morality play. A ratings surge becomes a battle over who deserves credit, who gets erased, and who needs to say more. That machine does not reward calm. It rewards escalation. And fans know it. Why this hits harder than a normal media debate? The reason this lands harder than most sports media arguments is because it feels like people are fighting over ownership of the story. Some want Clark to symbolize the old audience discovering women's basketball. Some want her to symbolize new commercial power. Some want her to symbolize uncomfortable truths about race and marketability. Some want her to symbolize unfair media obsession. And some fans want none of that. They want her to symbolize one thing, a killer basketball player who shows up, competes, and changes games. That fight over meaning is why every segment turns into a proxy war. It's not just about Clark. It's about what people want the league, the media, and the audience to become. The question nobody can dodge. So here's the question that hangs over all of this. If Clark's presence has coincided with record-breaking attention, and if even her critics acknowledge that her arrival intensified the spotlight, then what exactly do some commentators still want from her? More gratitude? More activism? More deference? More symbolic leadership? Because if the answer is something vague and endless, some moving target called awareness or responsibility that can never be fully satisfied, then fans are going to keep rejecting it. Not because they think Clark is perfect, but because they think the standard itself is slippery. What a fair conversation would sound like. A fair conversation would sound something like this. Caitlin Clark is a massive star. Her game is real. Her impact is measurable. Her popularity has social dimensions, like every major American sports figure. The WNBA was growing before her, but she accelerated that growth in a way the numbers clearly support. She is allowed to feel overwhelmed by distorted coverage. And analysts are allowed to critique her without making every conversation about her identity, her symbolism, or what she supposedly owes other people beyond basketball. That would be a sane conversation. But sane conversations do not usually dominate sports TV. Conflict does. Suspicion does. Interpretation does. And that's why this cycle keeps repeating. The real reason viewers keep coming back to this topic. Here's the irony. The people who say they are tired of the Caitlin Clark discourse often keep fueling it, because every time the conversation gets dragged away from basketball, fans get even more determined to defend what they see with their own eyes. The records. The crowds. The ratings. The sold-out arenas. The non-stop national attention. The official WNBA metrics from that boom year included a single-game attendance record of 20,711, a fever home attendance record of 340,715, and a 170% increase in average viewership across ESPN platforms to 1.19 million. WNBA. Those are not phantom numbers. So every time the discourse feels dismissive, Clark supporters don't quiet down. They get louder. Final word. At the end of the day, this is why the argument around Caitlin Clark never stays small. Because fans are not just reacting to one analyst or one quote. They are reacting to a pattern. A pattern where Clark says she feels falsely characterized, and many viewers immediately feel like they are watching that happen in real time. A pattern where her impact is acknowledged, but often with a qualifier attached. A pattern where her fame is dissected from every angle except the simplest one. She is an extraordinary player whose presence changed the scale of attention around women's basketball. You can debate the reasons. You can debate the tone. You can debate the media's role. But you cannot honestly debate that the impact happened. And that is why this conversation keeps blowing up. Because whether people want to celebrate that, complicate it, resent it, or redirect it, the audience has already seen the scoreboard. And once the audience sees the scoreboard, it gets very hard to sell them a different game. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think this is fair criticism of how the media handles Caitlin Clark, or do you think fans are overreacting whenever broader cultural issues enter the conversation? Drop your take in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more long-form sports commentary that mixes receipts with real opinion, subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay locked in, because this story is not cooling off anytime soon.